I thought the Straw Hat Pirates were unstoppable, until I realized that every single member could be defeated by exploiting a fatal weakness they couldn't overcome. And half of these weaknesses were built right into their personalities. While fans debate who's the strongest, they're missing the obvious. Each of the 10 Straw Hats has a critical vulnerability that makes them sitting ducks against the right opponent. Today I'm exposing every Straw Hat's fatal flaw, both tactical and psychological. After analyzing every major battle across 1,000 episodes, I've identified 2 types of fatal flaws that could doom every single crew member. The tactical limitations built into their fighting styles, and the psychological weaknesses of their human nature. Let's start with Luffy's fatal flaw: complete inability to think strategically when emotions are involved. I watched this rubber-brained captain dominate emperors and warlords through sheer determination and ridiculous power. But the moment someone he cares about is threatened, Luffy's tactical intelligence drops to 0. His devil fruit gives him incredible versatility, and his haki makes him nearly unstoppable in direct combat. But those abilities make him overconfident in his ability to punch through any problem. Combine this with Luffy's psychological flaw of reckless trust, and you get a captain who charges headfirst into obvious traps because he believes friendship conquers everything. This deadly combination got him captured at Whole Cake Island, nearly killed at Marineford, and separated from his crew at Sabaody. The future Pirate King's greatest weakness isn't physical, it's that he cares too much to think clearly. Let's move to Zoro's fatal flaw. The pirate hunter's directional disability creates a brutal irony. His greatest strength was also his fatal weakness. Zoro's incredible combat instincts made him nearly unbeatable in direct confrontation. But that same tunnel vision meant he had 0 situational awareness outside of fighting. Every major Zoro failure happened because he got lost at the worst possible moment, never learning basic navigation because he believed his strength could overcome any obstacle. His psychological flaw of pride made him ignore this tactical limitation entirely. He kept wandering into dangerous situations, where his lack of direction separated him from backup. Zoro was built to cut through enemies, but his emotional baggage turned him into a lone wolf who couldn't find his way back to the pack when they needed him most. But here's where the pattern becomes truly disturbing. Nami's fatal flaw revealed that the most dangerous weakness isn't having limitations, it's believing money can solve them. The cat burglar appeared perfectly balanced, smart enough to outthink enemies, capable of controlling weather, and equipped with Zeus for devastating attacks. Yet this versatility created false security that became her downfall. Nami's tactical flaw was over-reliance on preparation without adaptability. She could plan for everything adequately, but couldn't improvise when plans failed catastrophically. When cornered by enemies who didn't care about money, her strategic mind couldn't match pure violence. Her psychological flaw of money obsession meant she never learned to fight without calculating profit and loss. Nami's analytical skills became meaningless when facing opponents who specialized in direct combat without escape routes. The next crew member's flaw is heartbreaking. Usopp's fatal weakness possessed the most deceptive nature of all. The sniper could hit impossible targets from incredible distances, seemingly making him the most tactically sound fighter on the crew. I watched him manifest creative solutions and pinpoint accuracy that turned battlefields into his personal shooting gallery. Yet this incredible precision masked a critical weakness: complete psychological collapse under direct pressure that kept his greatest skills safely hidden behind cover. This supposed advantage became a fatal vulnerability the moment enemies closed distance or his fear overwhelmed his focus. Usopp's greatest strength became his downfall when he couldn't maintain emotional control. His psychological need to prove his bravery meant he never developed real confidence in his abilities, making his incredible marksmanship useless against enemies who understood how to exploit his self-doubt and panic responses. Let's talk about Sanji's fatal flaw. The Black Leg chivalry code seemed like an admirable character trait, but its tactical fatal flaw was hidden in plain sight. That moral compass came at a massive cost to combat effectiveness and crew safety. I watched Sanji's fighting ability become completely useless against female opponents, his chivalry code making him a sitting target for any woman with hostile intent. Sanji's design forced a brutal trade-off: maintain his principles but sacrifice tactical flexibility. When facing enemies who understood his limitations, the moral code became a prison. Worse yet, Sanji's psychological need to protect women meant he often forgot to protect himself strategically, leaving critical battles unfinished. His identity as a gentleman didn't just affect his decision-making. It literally created exploitable weaknesses that smart enemies used ruthlessly. A combination of moral inflexibility and psychological predictability created windows of vulnerability that nearly got him killed multiple times. Then there's Chopper's fatal flaw. The Doctor's weakness reveals something disturbing. Sometimes the vulnerability is the feature, not the bug. Chopper's transformation sacrificed consistent power for situational versatility, creating a fighter who could adapt to anything but couldn't dominate anything. Chopper's monster point and medical knowledge were designed for support roles, but every battle eventually forced him into direct combat, where he was hilariously outmatched without Rumble Ball enhancement. His tactical brilliance as a doctor meant he understood his limitations perfectly, yet he kept entering situations where medical knowledge couldn't overcome physical inadequacy. His psychological strength, caring for others above himself, became his weakness because it made him too willing to enter battles he couldn't win to protect his patients. Now, Robin's fatal flaw exposes the most terrifying truth about overwhelming knowledge. It makes you forget that battles aren't won by information alone. Robin's Hana abilities could sprout limbs anywhere, gather intelligence instantly, and incapacitate multiple enemies simultaneously. But these abilities created critical tactical vulnerabilities. Robin's reliance on her devil fruit made her helpless when enemies attacked her real body directly. She couldn't dodge what she couldn't see coming, couldn't hide when her sprouted limbs revealed her location, and couldn't retreat quickly when her powers were neutralized. Robin's psychological dependence on staying detached meant she never learned to think aggressively for herself. She relied on teammates to handle close combat. But when those teammates were occupied, her godlike information gathering became utterly useless against opponents who specialized in finding and eliminating the real target. Let's move to Frankie's fatal flaw. The shipwright's weakness carried the most ironic nature of all: the illusion of mechanical perfection hiding complete dependence on external resources. I spent arcs watching Frankie struggle in extended battles because his cyborg body had incredible power but limited fuel capacity. He wasn't the strongest, most offensive, or fastest. He was painfully average in every category except one: construction and repair. Frankie's intelligence evolved from simple engineering to complex battle tactics, letting him build solutions for any problem. But ultimately, his strengths amplified his weaknesses to crew-endangering scale. He became too confident in his modifications to accept natural limitations, too mechanical to adapt when technology failed, and too loyal to retreat when his fuel ran out. Then there's Brook's fatal flaw, which reveals a haunting truth about immortality. The musician's supernatural abilities, soul-based powers, revival from complete destruction, and emotional manipulation through music mask a devastating weakness. Yet for all this supernatural ability, he couldn't overcome the most basic limitation: his fragile bone structure and the guilt of outliving everyone he ever cared about. Brook's infinite lifespan became his greatest weakness because it guaranteed he would watch everyone he loved die, while being powerless to prevent it. And finally, Jinbe's fatal flaw reveals the ultimate weakness that connects all the others: the devastating cost of trying to serve everyone. The fishman's decades of experience made him the crew's tactical anchor and moral compass, but his greatest strength, diplomatic wisdom, became his greatest weakness when split-second decisions were required. Jinbe's psychological burden of representing his entire species meant he couldn't afford to make mistakes that would reflect poorly on fishmen. This pressure created tactical paralysis when facing enemies who exploited his need for measured responses. His loyalty to conflicting groups, Sun Pirates, Fishman Island, the Straw Hats, created impossible moral choices. When these loyalties clashed, Jinbe's tactical effectiveness collapsed as he tried to find solutions that satisfied everyone, often satisfying no one. The former warlord's diplomatic nature made him hesitate in situations that required immediate decisive action, turning his wisdom into a liability against opponents who specialized in forcing split-second moral dilemmas. The most tragic realization isn't that the fatal flaws weren't random character defects. They were intentional features of people designed to ensure that even heroes among pirates remain tragically, inevitably human. Every Straw Hat inherited not just incredible abilities, but also the guarantee that these abilities would be meaningless against the right opponent. Their tactical limitations forced them into vulnerable situations, while their psychological flaws prevented them from developing the wisdom needed to avoid these situations entirely. In the end, the greatest fatal flaw wasn't any individual crew member. It was in the very concept of giving dreamers the power to change the world without the experience to wield it responsibly. But maybe that's what makes them heroes. They keep fighting despite knowing their weaknesses could destroy everything they care about. So, what do you think? Did I miss any fatal flaws? Or do you think the Straw Hats' teamwork makes up for their individual weaknesses? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown of every crew member's vulnerabilities, smash that like button and subscribe for more One Piece analysis that reveals the truth behind your favorite characters. Until next time, keep sailing and remember, even the strongest pirates have weaknesses that could bring them down.